Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Marc Márquez made it look routine in Hungary's maiden sprint. The Ducati rider swept clear at the first corner, avoided the early chaos, and controlled the race to claim another win. After the checkered flag, he talked technique as much as triumph, small setup tweaks, smarter electronics, and the art of using the Desmosedici power off the line are the real margins here. His tone blended relief with method. The bike is improving in tight change sections, rivals are closing in, and the team's data sharing is shrinking gaps across the grid. Pecco Bagnaia arrived at Balaton facing arguably the toughest weekend of his season. Comfortable on the Panigale road bike but at odds with the GP25, Bagnaia cut a frank figure after Friday. He missed Q2, his pace is poor, and the track's short, break and turn character cruelly exposes the areas where the Desmosedici hurts him most. Plainly uneasy, the two-time champion admitted what the timing screens already said. Marc Márquez seems uniquely able to extract the bike's potential, and Bagnaia is still hunting answers. Pecco Bagnaia's struggles worsened at Balaton Park. After walking back a heated Austria soundbite earlier in the week, the two-time champion then failed to reach Q2 and qualified a lowly 15th, a result that left Ducati publicly frustrated. Team manager Davide Tardozzi was blunt after Q1. The scoreboard is ugly, the track makes recovery harder, and the factory must find technical answers fast. Danny Pedrosa delivered a calm, measured deconstruction of Marc Márquez's current streak and the dilemmas facing his rivals, especially Pecco Bagnaia. Speaking from Balaton, the former GP frontrunner framed Márquez's dominance as the product of near-flawless weekend execution, and urged Bagnaia to concentrate on rebuilding confidence and refining his own rhythm inside a team that's split by success. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Márquez described the sprint as comfortable from the first lap. Braking, turn-in and rhythm all fell into place. He admitted reacting at turn 1 when he heard Fabio Quartararo close by, lifting slightly then re-establishing his line to avoid trouble before settling into the lead. From the first lap, I felt comfortable, good, braking in the right place, turning in the right place. With 5 laps to go, I pushed the pace a bit again to see where I could go. The Ducati has historically been strong on flow and top speed but trickier in tight, rapid direction changes. Márquez credited a small morning improvement that helped the front end settle in those narrow chops, giving him consistency without extra risk. Those corners, those changes of direction, the bike was late, especially the front end. And that's where we made a small step that helped me improve my ability to be consistent, fast, without so much risk. Márquez distilled an essential advantage. The Duke's power, when deployed with control off the line, creates decisive seconds. He contrasted Ducati technique with his Honda days, different approaches to braking and corner entry, but stressed the payoff comes from marrying power to precise exits. You have to use that power when you get off the line. When you use it well, that's where you make the difference with the Ducati. On short, tight layouts where overtaking opportunities are scarce, superior drive out of corners often decides the weekend. Márquez noticed rival Ducatis and satellite machines had closed in from FP3 to the sprint, partly because teams observed his setup and partly due to shared electronic advances. He praised the teamwork, small electronics and setup changes, and transparent data loops have made the field tighter. When a leader's tweaks are copied, the margin compresses quickly. The champion's edge then becomes about refinement and consistency rather than large technical gaps. Márquez singled out Pedro Acosta and the KTMs as genuine pace threats, especially in circuits that reward turning. He acknowledged that the weekend's narrow margins mean rivals can leap into contention quickly, so every session's work is critical. The balance of power this season isn't static. Riders on nimble packages can upend predictions at compact tracks, forcing established leaders to adapt rapidly. Marc Márquez's sprint victory in Hungary was textbook, a clean start, cautious mid-race conservation, then a well-timed push. But the headline beneath the headline is strategic. Tiny handling steps, smarter electronics, and pinpoint power delivery are shrinking the margins. Rivals are learning fast. Ducati's internal and satellite teams are closing in. For Marquez, the job is clear. Keep refining the small things that protect tire life and unlock drive. Because on tracks like Balaton, those small things win races. Balaton's narrow geometry amplified Bagnaia's core issue: short stops, braking with the bike still turning, and ultra-tight transitions. Those are precisely the sequences the GP25 has given him trouble with all season, and they showed on Friday when a poor T4 on his final lap cost a realistic shot at Q2. "I had a terrible T4 on the last lap. In general, my pace is very bad." When a single sector consistently ruins a banker lap, it points to a repeatable mismatch rather than random misfortune. Bagnaia was blunt. The GP25's character is difficult to change. The bike's DNA can't be changed. But he believes cushioning measures exist. He's searched setups for months without finding the confidence to ride the way he wants. That admission turns what might have been a temporary dip into a sustained engineering and setup challenge. The most damaging line was honest and simple. Marquez is extracting something from the GP25 others cannot. Bagnaia has watched, tried to copy, and so far failed to reproduce those inputs on his own lap times. "I can't ride this bike the way Marc is riding it." Publicly conceding a teammate's superior translation of bike to rider is rare, and it raises immediate expectations for technical answers. There were modest positives. Bagnaia have the gap between sessions and still believes FP2 offers a chance to try something different. Yet incremental improvements fall short of the quantum shift he needs to return to the front. He stressed small progress but warned that fixing the root cause remains urgent. Measurable session gains are useful, but they must become structural to reverse a season-long slide. Bagnaia accepts the psychological pressure. When the bike resists, confidence drains and tense evaporate under braking. He insists he isn't giving up. He'll keep fighting. But the shop must match that intent with targeted, credible changes. He recognizes it's the toughest moment in his career but wants solutions, not platitudes. Restoring belief will require both telemetry breakthroughs and visible, early performance returns. Balaton underlined a painful truth for Bagnaia. This is not a single bad weekend but a continuing mismatch between rider and machine that has become public and urgent. He is candid about his limits, clear about the gap to Marquez, and still determined to dig for answers. Ducati's task is heavy: provide tangible fixes, rebuild the champion's confidence, and convert honest words into quicker lap times. Until then, Bagnaia's Balaton weekend will be read as another chapter in a season of rare, stubborn questions. Bagnaia arrived at Balaton with expectations reset after a turbulent Austria, but Saturday's session offered no recovery. He missed Q2 for the first time this season and will start well down the grid. The position is particularly stark given his status as a two-time champion who normally haunts the front. "It's obvious that we are not happy about this result. Pecco is the first." Missing Q2 turns a tricky weekend into a strategic problem. On a debut circuit, grid position matters even more than usual. Bagnaia's lowly 15th sits in sharp contrast to teammate Marc Márquez's continued dominance, which amplifies the internal pressure. Where one Desmosedici converts pace into victories, the other appears trapped in a mismatch between rider and bike. When a teammate repeatedly outperforms you on the same machinery, scrutiny quickly shifts from luck to setup, riding style, and technical fit. Tarduzzi warned that Balaton makes on-track repair work harder, overtaking is difficult, and a poor grid slot can be race deciding. Starting 15th is therefore not just inconvenient, it's prognostic of a difficult Sunday. It will be a very difficult race, because it's very hard to overtake in this race track. So, starting from 15th is something very difficult. On a narrow debut layout, strategy and tire life matter, but first you have to be in a position where strategy can be executed. While acknowledging the psychological element of a slide in confidence, Tardozzi made clear Ducati is prioritizing technical solutions. The team will analyze telemetry and set up overnight to give Bagnaia something tangible to work with in Sunday's race. That's something that we don't see as a problem, but now we have to find out the technical way to help him. Promising words, but teams are judged by the lap time returns that follow, not the press office intent. Tardozzi struck a typically managerial tone. Ducati won't concede, and sometimes the only path back is confronting the low point. He stressed trust in Bagnaia while urging swift technical action to reverse momentum. Sometimes you have to touch the bottom to grow up again. We trust Pecco and we need to do something to let him perform better from the next races. That framing buys patience, but only if the garage produces rapid, visible improvements. Balaton's Q1 results sharpened an already uncomfortable story. Bagnaia's season is not just stuttering, it's visibly slipping. Ducati's public impatience signals a club ready to act, with Tardozzi pointing the response towards technical fixes rather than headline psychology. The critical test is immediate. Can engineers deliver a setup that restores pace and confidence? Or will Sunday at Balaton deepen a crisis that now has the factory watching closely? Pedrosa praised Marquez not just for raw speed but for an uncanny ability to avoid the usual weekend mistakes. According to Pedrosa, Marquez consistently completes every step of a race weekend without the lapses that cost rivals time or positions. He said Marquez always manages to come out on top, because his rivals tend to fail at some point across a weekend. When the leader removes errors from his program, small advantages compound into dominant results. Pedrosa highlighted the mechanical effect of the sprint points haul. Marquez's accumulation of sprint points inflates his championship buffer and reshapes opponents' season math. That sprint success is a dimension many rivals find hard to counter. He noted Marquez's sprint haul alone puts him ahead of many in the standings. Championship pressure isn't only about Sunday. Sprint riches change how teams chase recovery. Pedrosa was blunt on Bagnaia. The starting position problems at Balaton make his race harder, but the core task is internal. He urged Bagnaia to focus on himself and treat each session as a rebuild. The gains from moving up a handful of places are as important for morale as for results. The only thing he can do is focus on it and try to get the best result possible. He has to try to be a little more comfortable with the situation and learn from it. The prescription is process-driven. Stabilize small margins, then scale them into greater confidence. Pedrosa acknowledged a painful truth inside dominant teams. Celebrations for one rider shift the garage's energy, and repeatedly seeing a teammate win can erode another rider's personal satisfaction and momentum. Over time, that emotional tilt makes on-track recovery harder. He said the team's collective joy can unintentionally leave a struggling teammate feeling isolated, and repeated episodes make it tougher. Managing locker room energy and giving targeted support is as important as technical fixes when form dips. Drawing on his own experience of chasing a runaway streak, Pedrosa urged patience and focus. Keep learning, adapt where needed, and wait for the weekend slice where everything aligns. He recalled that persistence paid off when he finally broke a long run of another rider's dominance. You have to focus on yourself and you have to find your moment. It's a long-view strategy. The comeback starts with small, consistent actions and a prepared mind. Pedrosa's verdict is pragmatic and humane. Marc Márquez's excellence is a composite of near-perfect execution and psychological solidity. Rivals must respond the same way. For Pecco Bagnaia, that means inward focus, technical tests, session-by-session targets, and steady confidence building, rather than public sparring. In a season where margins are microscopic, the rider who recalibrates fastest may yet reclaim the narrative. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time. P.